What is going on, Panthers fans? We need to talk about a situation that could either make or break our entire season. We all know how much our offensive line struggled with injury chaos last year, but there is one specific interior blocker whose health is absolutely vital for the success of our offense. If he stays on the field, we have a chance to dominate, but his potential absence is a nightmare scenario we aren't prepared for. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Is our depth enough to survive? Let's dive into why this is so critical. The Carolina Panthers faced a grueling challenge during the 2025 campaign, testing the resilience of their roster through a constant series of changes along the trenches. Over the course of the year, including the intensity of the postseason, the team utilized 12 different offensive line combinations. This mark ranked them among the leaders in the league for roster instability up front. From the very start of the season, this unit was ravaged by injuries, creating a domino effect that disrupted the team's rhythm. The most significant loss occurred in Week 2, when Robert Hunt went down. His absence was felt immediately, triggering a snowball effect that plagued the squad for the remainder of the regular season. Robert Hunt, the high-profile interior blocker brought in 2 years ago specifically to anchor the protection for quarterback Bryce Young, was sidelined for the entirety of that regular season schedule. He did manage to make a return for the playoffs, though he was clearly limited by the physical toll of his recovery. As one of the most vital components of the Carolina front, Robert Hunt carries the weight of a massive contract and the expectation of elite performance. The organization's decision to invest heavily in the interior line was centered on his presence. Ranked 17th in overall importance, Robert Hunt remains the focal point of the team's offensive stability. The reality for the Panthers is that they cannot afford a repeat of the 2025 injury woes. If the team is going to achieve offensive success in 2026, Robert Hunt must remain on the field. The offense is built on the foundation of their high-priced line, and that is where their productivity in both pass protection and the running game must originate. Keep pounding. Robert Hunt is currently under the spotlight as the most crucial cog in the Panthers' offensive machinery, primarily because of his recent history of injury struggles. While he is not the sole interior blocker on the roster, his contract makes him the most significant financial investment among the group. Interestingly, Damian Lewis has arguably outperformed him in some metrics, but that comparison does not diminish the impact that Robert Hunt brings to the field when healthy. The 2025 season demonstrated exactly what happens when that protection breaks down. Because the team has invested so much capital into the front five, the offense is essentially designed to flow through that group. If Robert Hunt misses time, the consequences for the team are twofold and immediate. First, his absence forces a player with less production into the starting lineup. The depth of the roster has changed significantly since last year, and the Panthers no longer possess the level of versatility required to easily cover for a loss of his caliber. During previous injury stretches, the team relied on players like Brady Christensen, Chandler Zavala, Austin Corbett, or Cade Mays to fill the gaps, depending on the center situation at the time. 3 of those players were viewed as highly competent backups who could step in without a massive drop-off in production. However, the current reality of the 2026 roster is quite different. Of that group, only Chandler Zavala remains with the team. If Robert Hunt goes down again, the coaching staff will be forced to rely on Chandler Zavala, who has not yet demonstrated the level of play expected of a starter in the NFL. This transition would signal an immediate decline in the efficiency of the interior line during the 2026 season. Why does this matter right now for the Panthers? The significance of Robert Hunt's health extends far beyond his individual performance on any given snap. For the current team, this is about the absolute necessity of continuity. In 2024, the offensive line managed to survive a series of injuries because every single member of that unit had played together previously. They possessed a deep-rooted chemistry, knowing exactly how to react to one another's movements and assignments. That experience allowed them to maintain a baseline of competence, even when names changed in the starting five. In contrast, the 2026 squad features several new faces along the front. If the team experiences a revolving door of offensive linemen, they will never be given the opportunity to develop that vital chemistry. Constant shuffling prevents the unit from learning the nuances of playing alongside each other, leading to miscommunications and breakdowns in protection. Because Robert Hunt is statistically the most injury-prone lineman on the roster, a significant portion of this risk falls directly on him. The success of the entire offensive scheme is tethered to the health of the line. and if they are constantly learning to play with new partners, the protection for Bryce Young will inevitably suffer. The team is currently attempting to integrate new players into the lineup, and that process requires stability that the unit currently lacks. If they cannot keep their core, led by Robert Hunt, on the field for an extended period, the offensive strategy could be derailed. This is not just about replacing one player. It is about the collective ability of a new group to function as a singular, cohesive wall. The margin for error is razor thin, and the health of this specific blocker remains the biggest question mark for the season. The ripple effects of a potential injury to Robert Hunt highlight the fragility of the current offensive line configuration. When the unit is forced to adapt, the lack of depth becomes the most glaring issue for the Carolina front office. Losing Robert Hunt would leave a void that cannot be filled by the current remaining depth options. As noted, the loss of versatile backups who were available in previous years has fundamentally changed how the team reacts to injury crises. The reliance on players who have yet to prove their value in the NFL, such as Chandler Zavala, creates an environment of uncertainty. This uncertainty is exacerbated by the fact that the 2026 offense is dependent on the line to set the tone for both the running game and the passing attack. Without the consistency that Robert Hunt provides, the entire game plan is at risk of being compromised. The team has committed significant resources to the front, and those resources are only effective if the intended starters are actually participating in the games. If the revolving door of combinations returns, as it did in 2025, the offense will find it impossible to find a rhythm. The lack of continuity acts as an anchor, dragging down the efficiency of every other skill position player, who depends on the protection provided by the line. Every sack surrendered or run stopped in the backfield can be traced back to the cohesion of the blockers. If Robert Hunt is forced to miss significant time, the team enters a cycle of constant adjustment rather than execution. The importance of his presence cannot be overstated, as he represents the bridge between the team's investment and its actual on-field production. Anytime he is unavailable, the entire offensive operation is effectively forced to change its identity. Looking at the path forward for the 2026 season, the narrative for the Carolina Panthers is inextricably linked to the availability of Robert Hunt. The organization knows all too well how the season can spiral when the injury bug hits the trenches, as evidenced by the 12 different combinations used just 1 year ago. The goal for this unit is to establish a fixed rotation that can play the majority of the schedule together, allowing for the growth of chemistry that was so helpful in previous iterations of the offensive line. Robert Hunt stands as the anchor of this effort. If he can maintain his health, the Panthers have a clear path to maximizing the performance of the players around him and protecting Bryce Young with the efficiency they intended when they signed him. However, the reality of the depth chart, now lacking the versatile veterans of the past, means there is no safety net if he falters. The team must navigate the upcoming weeks and months with the understanding that their success is contingent upon the stability of the interior. The contrast between the 2024 continuity and the 2025 chaos serves as a stark reminder of what is at stake. The front office has built the team to lean heavily on this position group, and Robert Hunt is the individual who must justify that reliance. Every snap that he plays alongside the rest of the new offensive line is a building block toward a more successful season. If he remains on the field, the Panthers have the potential to build a consistent, productive unit. If he suffers another setback, the team will once again be searching for answers and forced into the same instability that hampered their progress throughout the previous year. Everything hinges on his durability.